Is it important, Brigadier? Because I'm trying to get some work done. Look what you made me do now. What do you want, for Pete's sake? I've reversed the polarity of the neutron flow, so the TARDIS will be free of the force field now. Well, Brigadier, I think that covers everything for the moment.
Hello everyone and welcome to Theta Sigma's 6th Doctor Who podcast. This week we look at 3rd Doctor actor Jon Pertwee and hear from Roger Delgado's master in this week's voiceover theme, as well as introducing a topic for a future podcast that I would love to hear your views and opinions on. But for now...
Oh, well, having reached that brilliant conclusion, how about getting on with it?
John Devon Roland Pertwee, or Jon de Pertwee de Liévaux, as he states in his one-man show, was born on the 7th of July 1919. Pertwee is best known for a series of famous roles. Firstly, his 18-year stint on BBC Radio as Chief Petty Officer Pertwee in The Navy Lark. Secondly, his role in Doctor Who, in which he played the third incarnation of the Time Lord over 5 seasons of the show from 1970 to 1974. And thirdly, as the title character in the series Wurzel Gummidge. Pertwee was born in Chelsea in London to a family descended from Huguenots. He was the son of noted screenwriter and actor Roland Pertwee and distant cousin of actor Bill Pertwee, who played Chief Warden Hodges in the comedy Dad's Army. Coincidentally, while Pertwee was out in America doing some theatre work, he was offered the role of Captain Mannering, a role which, without realising what he was really doing, he turned down. Actor Henry Ainley, a close friend of Pertwee's father, was his godfather, and Ainley's own son Anthony was later to appear alongside Pertwee in the 1983 Doctor Who anniversary story, The Five Doctors. Pertwee was educated at Frensham Heights School near Farnham in Surrey, and at Sherborne School in Dorset, as well as several other schools from which he was expelled. After school, he went to the Royal Academy of Dramatic Art, from which he was also expelled after he refused to play a Greek wind during one of the lessons, feeling it was a waste of both his time and his father's money. Pertwee became an officer in the Royal Navy, spending some time attached to the highly secretive Naval Intelligence Unit during the Second World War, alongside James Bond author Ian Fleming, and reporting directly to the then Prime Minister Winston Churchill. In a 1994 interview he said, "I did all sorts, teaching commandos how to use escapology equipment, compasses in brass buttons, secret maps in white cotton handkerchiefs, pipes you could smoke that also fired a .22 bullet, all sorts of incredible things."
I was in submarines to begin the war. That's a very uncomfortable move. And I was a wireless operator in a tiny caboose, and I'm 6'2.5". And every time the captain said, "Pertwee," I said, "Sir!" and I banged my head on every bulkhead, and I went round a piece of sticking plaster on my forehead, and the captain said, "Good God, that wound of yours is taking a long time to heal, isn't it?" I said, "I haven't got a wound, sir." He said, "And why are you wearing that sticking plaster?" I said, "So I won't get one, sir." And he said, "Nevertheless, take that sticking plaster off. I'll get you transferred."
Later he became a crew member of HMS Hood, but was transferred off the ship shortly before she was sunk, losing all but 3 men. After the war he made a name for himself as a comedy actor in radio, in Waterlog Spa alongside Eric Barker, and Pufney Post Office, in which he played a hapless old postman with the catchphrase,
"Wow, what does it matter what you do, so long as you tear 'em up?"
From 1959 to 1977, he had a long-running role as the conniving Chief Petty Officer Pertwee in The Navy Lark on BBC Radio. On stage, he played the part of Lycus in the 1963 production of A Funny Thing Happened on the Way to the Forum with Frankie Howerd, and appeared in the smaller role of Crassus in the 1966 film version. He appeared as Sidney Tate in the 1963 comedy Ladies Who Do, and in 1966 Pertwee starred alongside Donald Sinden in the original West End production of the long-running comedy There's a Girl in My Soup. He also appeared in 4 Carry On films: Carry On Cleo, Carry On Screaming, Carry On Cowboy, and latterly Carry On Columbus in 1992 as the Duke of Costa Brava. On television, he started off with small parts in children's shows like Mr. Pastry. Later, he made an appearance in the Avengers episode From Venus with Love as Brigadier Whitehead. And in the 1970s, he guest starred as a vicar in the Goodies episode Wacky Wales. He had one of his most memorable film roles in the Amicus horror compendium The House That Dripped Blood in 1971. Filmed in the summer of 1970, between his first and second Doctor Who seasons, Pertwee played the lead in the last segment of the film as Paul Henderson, a deliciously arrogant horror film star who meets his quasi-comedic doom thanks to a genuine vampire cloak. In 1969, Pertwee was selected by producer Peter Bryant to take over as the Doctor from Patrick Troughton. Pertwee had asked his agent to apply for the role for him and was surprised to find he was already on the shortlist. He was the second choice of the producer behind Ron Moody. However, Moody was unavailable and Pertwee was offered the role. In a departure from the Doctor's first two incarnations, Pertwee played the character as an active crusader with a penchant for action and fancy clothes, even while the character was exiled on Earth and serving with UNIT. He played the Doctor for 5 seasons from early 1970 to mid-1974, a longer stint than either of his predecessors in the role, William Hartnell and Patrick Troughton, although he appeared in fewer episodes than Hartnell. In early 1974, Pertwee announced he would step down as the Doctor in order to resume his stage career in The Bedwinner, also citing typecast as the reason for leaving the role, though later he would say that the catalyst for his departure was the death of his good friend and co-star Roger Delgado and the departures of co-star Katie Manning and producer Barry Letts. His last full-time appearance in the series was in the story Planet of Spiders in June 1974, when Tom Baker replaced him in the role. Pertwee later reprised the role in the 20th anniversary story The Five Doctors, and in 2 radio adventures and on stage in Doctor Who The Ultimate Adventure. On the 14th of April 1971, he was the subject of Thames Television's This Is Your Life, which featured the first television appearance of his son Jon Pertwee, who also went on to become an actor. After a stint between 1974 and 1978 as the host of Thames Television murder mystery game show Who Done It, Pertwee looked to star in the role of Wurzel Gummidge, based on the books written by Barbara Eufen Todd. These first aired in 1979 on ITV. The series saw Pertwee as the Scarecrow, as well as utilising several comedic voices. The show was an immediate hit and ran on the channel until 1981. Keen to continue beyond this, Pertwee campaigned for the series, and it was picked up by a New Zealand TV network in 1987. Wurzel Gummidge Down Under aired for the next 2 years and was screened in the UK on Channel 4. In 1995, Pertwee played the role one last time in a one-off special for ITV, which celebrated 40 years of the channel. Pertwee also played the character on stage and recorded an album, Wurzel Gummidge Sings, as well as a Christmas single. He also voiced the character of Spotty in the 1980s cartoon series Super Ted, and in 1985 he starred in Do You Know the Milky Way, a television adaptation of Carl Whittlinger's stage play in which he played Dr. Neuros and 9 other characters. In 1995, Pertwee also had the key voice of Death and the other voice characterizations in the PC and PlayStation renditions of Discworld. Also in 1995, he played General von Kramer in the Young Indiana Jones Chronicles episode Attack of the Hawkmen. Pertwee voiced and appeared in the television advertisement which promoted the Green Cross Code by use of the mnemonic Splink. If you don't remember that ad campaign, or you've never seen it, do look it up on YouTube, it's well worth a watch. Pertwee returned to the role of the Doctor in the 1983 20th anniversary television special The Five Doctors, and in the 1993 charity special Dimensions in Time for Children in Need. He also portrayed the Doctor in the stage play The Ultimate Adventure, which toured theatres in the United Kingdom from March to June 1989. During the 1990s, he made a guest appearance in Lords and Ladies, the episode of the BBC Radio 4 comedy series Harry Hill's Fruit Corner, playing a Time Lord, and also spoofed the role in the Radio 4 comedy The Skivers. He also presented the Doctor Who videos The Troughton Years, showcasing selected surviving episodes of otherwise wiped stories, and The Pertwee Years, a look back at his own time on the show, with his 3 selected episodes. In 1993, Pertwee was featured in the unofficial 30th anniversary VHS release of Doctor Who, entitled 30 Years of Time Travel and Beyond. When asked in an interview for this documentary if the show should be brought back, he simply replied, "No, no." Pertwee would continue to act in films and television, as well as make appearances worldwide in support of Doctor Who, and was successful in seeing the Third Doctor return to the airwaves with 2 audio productions for BBC Radio, The Paradise of Death and The Ghosts of N-Space. In late 1995 he appeared in Devious, an amateur video drama set between the Second Doctor's trial at the end of the War Games and before the start of Spearhead from Space, which shows an interim between the Second and Third Doctor, who was played by Tony Garner, being told that he was never meant to be the Doctor, and that the Third will complete him. Pertwee's scenes in that role are the only pieces of the video that have been released on the DVD of the War Games. His final role was in a short film, Cloud Cuckoo, for Scottish Screen, released on the 18th of June 1994. His last formal television appearance was on Silla's Surprise Surprise, broadcast on the 21st of April 1996. At the date of his death, Pertwee was regularly being seen at the tail end of an enigmatic UK TV commercial for mobile phone operator Vodafone. Dressed in somewhat flamboyant doctorish manner, his character walks wordlessly across an alleyway in sight of a Liverpool landmark and enters a garage, evidently containing some kind of time machine. Pertwee continued on the convention circuit, and with his voice and television acting, until his death from a heart attack in Connecticut, though some reports place the location of his death in New York, on the 20th of May 1996, 2 months before his 77th birthday. He was cremated at Putney Vale Crematorium with a toy Wurzel Gummidge affixed to the coffin, following the instructions in his will. He died only days after the American broadcast of the Doctor Who television film, which used in its opening credits a logo based on the one from his era of the television series. The BBC broadcast version of the television film featured a dedication to Pertwee at its end. His last association with the series was posthumous. With the approval of his widow Ingeborg, his voice was utilised as part of the plot of the Big Finish Productions' 40th anniversary Doctor Who drama Zagreus, appearing as messages from the Doctor's TARDIS as it attempted to help the currently corrupted 8th Doctor. Pertwee's voice was culled from the fan-produced Doctor Who film Devious, portions of which were recorded just prior to his death. Pertwee wrote 2 autobiographies, Moon Boots and Dinner Suits, published in 1984, which primarily covers his life and career prior to Doctor Who, and the posthumously published Doctor Who, I Am the Doctor, Jon Pertwee's final memoir, which was co-written with David J. Howe. The latter covered his life during and after the series. In 2000, Jon Pertwee, the biography, by Bernard Bale, was published by Andre Deutsch, and included several chapters by Pertwee's widow, Ingeborg. One of the questions I'm often asked when I tell people I'm a Doctor Who fan is, "Go on then, who's your favourite Doctor?" My response is always the same. Jon Pertwee for me will always be the Governor. This amazing action anti-hero, and there's a subject for a coming podcast, but maybe more of that later, was someone I could relate to in my childhood, who left me feeling both safe and secure.
Well, Brigadier, I think that covers everything for the moment.
I wanted to play a voiceover theme that ties in with our look at Jon Pertwee, and who better to choose than the Master as played by Roger Delgado. Delgado's Master remains the definitive characterisation for many, but more on that in another podcast. For now, please enjoy Roger Delgado in the voice of the Master.
I am usually referred to as the Master. I only need 2 things: your submission and your obedience to my will. You insolent primitive. I advise you not to give me any trouble, Doctor. This is the end, Doctor.
I also wanted to take the opportunity to say thank you to those of you who sent in feedback to either Facebook page that is Theta Sigma's Doctor Who page, or to respectthething@gmail.com. That's respectthething@gmail.com. Specifically thanks to Melissa for your lovely positive comments, and Andy, thank you for your encouragement and suggestions for future topics, and it's one of those suggestions that I want to address now. Having recently looked at the history of Doctor Who's iconic theme tune and shared with you all my personal favourite, I want to take a podcast to look at the title sequences that have adorned the show since 1963. So I'm asking you, the listener, to let me know what you think of the various title sequences and the visuals therein. Do you have a favourite, and if so, which one and why? Is there one particularly you dislike, and why? So inbox me your thoughts at Theta Sigma's Doctor Who page, or email me at respectthething@gmail.com. Well, that just about wraps it up for this week. As always, thanks for listening, and I hope you're enjoying the podcast at least a little. So until next week, when we'll be taking a look at a couple of Big Finish audios, take care of yourselves, and...
Well, goodbye, my boy. You did quite well. Quite well. It's reassuring to know that my future is in safe hands.
Thank you for listening to Theta Sigma's Doctor Who podcast. Doctor Who and its associated shows are all copyright and property of the BBC, and no infringement is intended.